The horrifying collapse of the Rana Plaza building in Bangladesh has sparked serious questions about the use of sweatshops and cheap labour. Famous fashion brands like Benetton and Mango have been implicated in the disaster, but many more companies, including here in Australia, source their products from Bangladesh. Now they're under serious pressure to guarantee that workers aren't exploited or forced to work in deadly conditions. Hayden Cooper reports.
From the twisted wreck of concrete and rubble, voices of survivors have now faded. And more than 380 bodies of Bangladeshi workers have been retrieved. The heavy toll has reverberated across the globe, not least in the world of fashion.
I personally feel completely devastated about it. I think from a fashion industry perspective, it's been a major wake-up call for all people within the fashion industry around the world.
This is what's driving the burgeoning Bangladeshi garment trade. Fast fashion, an insatiable market, and a relentless drive to cut costs for consumers in the Western world. Bangladesh is now the workhorse for the international fashion industry.
It's increasingly becoming a base for fashion production. Are you going to keep it all in one piece like this? Or are you going to...
Karen Webster is the former director of the Melbourne Fashion Festival and now represents Australian designers. The disaster of the past week, she says, has been hard felt in the local industry.
Every company is reassessing how they're getting their garments produced at the moment. Not even those large-scale chains, even smaller independent businesses anyone who's producing offshore would have to be looking at how their garments are being produced and making sure that they are being made in adequate conditions.
In Bangladesh, sweatshop conditions prevail. The industry provides jobs for millions and 80% of the nation's export earnings. But it can be dangerous work. In the past decade, almost 1,000 workers have died. In the country's teeming capital, Gareth Jones sees the downside firsthand. We caught up with him via Skype from his office in Dhaka.
Huge concerns around safety. I mean, as we've seen, there was this building collapse. There was another major factory building collapse just 5 years ago. There was a major fire just in December, and there's regular small fires and small incidents almost on a weekly, monthly basis.
A string of Australian companies sell products that are made in Bangladesh. Kmart, Target, Big W and Cotton On are just a few. All say they insist on strict guidelines on safety and workers' rights and conduct regular audits of their Bangladeshi suppliers. But not a single one of these companies would speak to us on camera to explain in detail just how these safe working conditions are met. For one, David Jones, the implications are more serious because of its contract with the Spanish clothing label Mango. It's just one of the brands made in the very building that collapsed last week, and it's a relationship that David Jones has been forced to rethink. The department store says it's now talking to Mango to make sure better standards are met before the label is sold in DJ's stores later this year. It's the sort of commitment that unions don't trust.
Those companies need to answer why they're making in Bangladesh, and they need to be completely transparent about their supply chain. If companies aren't disclosing to the public their supply chain and every one of their suppliers, there's a reason for it.
7:30 asked each company for a location of their Bangladeshi suppliers and for a copy of their audit reports. None was forthcoming.
I don't think you can trust any company that says that it employs its own auditors to check its own factories. You just can't trust that. It's not a valid process. You need to know names of factories and addresses and details of factories, because if you don't know to that level, how can it ever be independently checked and verified?
To chants of "hang him," the owner of the Rana Plaza has been led into court and held for interrogation, as relatives continue an increasingly futile search.
Where is she? Where is my mother? Trapped under the building? Mother, your daughter is calling you.
Those in the fashion industry who advocate change hope these scenes will spark a meaningful response, not just from fashion brands and retailers, but also from consumers.
I think this is a story that's much bigger. I think that we need to reassess how we buy clothes. Maybe we need to just stop and think, do we need so much cheap stuff in our wardrobes? Should we sit back and start buying less, buying better, buying local? And, you know, this is what the public have to start asking about their own fashion wardrobes. Do I really need a $5 T-shirt anymore?
And full statements from the retailers mentioned in that story can be found on our website later tonight.